What's up, everyone? It is Tuesday, July 21st, and we are live at 5. I'm Paul Wontorek.
I'm Michael James Scott. What's going on, Paul?
Hey, I was trying to give like a Brady Bunch look over, like we're looking at each other.
Hi, Paul.
That moment. Hey, it's Tuesday. You're here. There must be a fabulous group. A lot of there's so much talent in the room that we're having tech issues.
I can't
We'll figure it out. But we're joined, as always, by Caitlin Moynihan.
Hello.
Hello, Caitlin.
Hey, girl.
Here's the girl in the middle.
Let's wait to introduce everyone. But who's here? Just tell me who's here.
Oh my gosh. Like everything. Like John Eric Parker, Ariel Reid, Dennis Stowe, Tracee Beazer back, and Rashad Burroughs, y'all. It's gonna be, I can't. I'm so excited.
These are some real Broadway. Like this is like the foundation. Like these are some real Broadway, like brick and mortar.
Like it is going down. It's so exciting, and I can't wait to get to chat about it. Yes.
But first, let's do a little news.
We found out what is going to be happening at Second Stage this upcoming season, whenever that may be.
You gotta love how vague our news stories are. That's Liv Nottage, and so we just found out officially that her new play will be part of the 2021 Second Stage season. So we already know that Take Me Out, the Richard Greenberg's baseball play, which was about to start right when everything shut down, is coming back. We don't know if the cast is going to be confirmed, but I'm pretty sure the male nudity will be confirmed because it's part of the script.
Oh, wow.
I got your attention. But we also now know that Liv Nottage, who's a two-time Pulitzer Prize winner, her new play will be playing on Broadway at the Hayes Theater. Now, this play doesn't have a title, but anyone who's been paying attention will know that it's been known as Floyd's. And they actually did it out at the Guthrie Theater in summer of 2019, and it's set at on the formerly incarcerated kitchen stop of a truck stop sandwich shop. So it's about making sandwiches at a truck stop and about work. And the Broadway cast is not confirmed, but Joanna Day and John Earl Jelks did it out at the Guthrie. So we found out that, and also Rajiv Joseph's new play, Letters of Suresh, will happen in spring of 2021, and that will be at their off-Broadway venue, the Tony Kaiser Theater. So that's the Second Stage news.
Yes, and now we know when we're going to be able to see Alan Menken's next project.
Yes, y'all. Alan Menken and Glenn Slater's animated movie musical Spellbound is scheduled for release on November 11, 2022. Helmed by Shrek director Vicky Jensen, Spellbound centers on a young girl who must break a spell that has split her kingdom into two. The creative team for the animated movie musical also includes Lauren Hynek, Elizabeth Martin, and Linda Wolverton, as well as Shrek producer David Lipton. Menken and Slater have collaborated on Broadway, of course, with A Bronx Tale, Leap of Faith.
Let me ask you, have you ever done any Alan Menken? Do you have any of that in your book?
There is a little bit of it in my book.
Okay. Just wondering. I thought maybe. You seem like you have the right personality to do Alan Menken. Anyway, yes. I'm sorry. The genie. I believe the genie.
He has written one of, I'm very thankful for Alan Menken. Thank you, Lord, for Alan Menken. And The Little Mermaid. Now, a little fun fact for y'all. Two of those shows that I just mentioned, one of our guest panelists, Dennis Stowe, has been in two of those shows, P.S. Oh. So, just to give you a little FYI. But casting and a production timeline will be announced later for Spellbound.
So this is a movie.
It's a movie, though. It's a movie.
Okay. And then they'll make a stage musical out of it. And
they'll make a stage...
It'll be in our lives for like 15 years, no matter what.
Absolutely. And then there'll be a song that hopefully I can sing. Thank you.
Yes. And today we found out who is going to be helping bringing Summer Lovin' to life.
Well, this is Brett Haley. I don't know him, but he better take care of Sandy and Danny because he is directing the Grease film prequel, which is going to tell the full story of what happened on that beach. Because in the beginning of Grease, the movie, you see the little flashback, Sandy and Danny having their summer lovin'. So this movie, is it called Summer Lovin'? It must be. It's called Summer Lovin'. Of course it is. So it is a prequel, and it'll be a huge hit. And of course, I don't know about you, Michael, but I grew up loving Grease, but also Grease 2.
Grease 2 for sure. There is definitely don't forget about Grease 2 now.
Okay, and since this is unrelated news, but since we're here, I'm just gonna say it. You remember when they did Grease live on Fox? You remember that, of course.
I do remember that.
And Tommy Kail directed it, of Hamilton fame.
Yes.
And I told Tommy Kail when I went to the set, and I said to him, I'm like, Grease is great, but I love Grease 2. And he was like, me too. He is a total Grease 2 freak. Tommy Kail, he promised me that he would do a Grease 2 something. So I just want to say, now that he's really big, I mean, bigger than ever, and he's like an Emmy winner, and Tony, he's all that. I just want to make sure that he keeps Grease 2 in his thoughts. And that's
come on, Tommy Kail.
I'm sorry, I just had to do that little personal campaign there.
Yes, and a former. It's so good. Grease 2 all the way. And one of our former Broadway.com vloggers is putting on a really awesome event.
Yes, he is, y'all. Ain't Too Proud star Jelani Remy has created a virtual fundraiser, Next Gen Spotlight. That's what it's called. It will air on July 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and benefits will be benefiting Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS. The event is produced by the leaders of Broadway Cares, young professional group, the Next Gen Network. Yes. All donations during the stream will be matched up to $5,000 by the Next Gen Network Executive Board, the Next Gen Advocates. Come on, Next Gen. Next Gen Spotlight will feature performances and conversations with special appearances by LaShawn, Stormy Lever, Shalene Pimentel, Annalise Scarpacci, Matt Roden, Sergio Trujillo, and many, many more, I'm sure, to be announced. Those interested can register on the site. That's kind of fierce.
Can you just say Next Gen one more time, please?
I mean,
Next Gen. I guess it stands for Next Generation.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, you know what? We've been talking too much. I hogged up too much time with Maxwell Caulfield memories. So that's my cue. I'm going to get out of here because you have some great guests. So, Michael, you have some fun, okay? Don't have too much fun. I know this is going to be a fun group. So.
It's going to be a fun group. You know I love y'all, but y'all got to go for right now.
All right. Later.
Oh my gosh. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another round table episode of #Live@5. So I am so excited because I've been doing these roundtable discussions, and I get to chat with amazing artists in our Broadway community, our entertainment community. And this is really special because today I am getting to chat with some staples of the Broadway community. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me today is John Eric Parker, Ariel Reid, Dennis Stowe, Tracee Beazer, Bart, and Nick Rashad Burroughs. Yes! OMG. Yes, y'all. I am so happy to see you. Okay. Let me just now. I have to take this moment. I have to brag on my fierce guests during the beginning of each episode. So just hold Hold on for a second, strap your seatbelt in, and let me tell you what is happening today and who you are talking to. Ladies and gentlemen, Beazer. Yes, Beazer was part of the Broadway cast of Frozen at the time of the shutdown, which caused the production to announce it had to play. There it is, its final performance. But she has been seen in other Broadway credits, including Something Rotten, Memphis, and Hairspray. Beazer was also part of the national touring company of All Shook Up and appeared in the cult favorite 2003 film Camp. Yes. Y'all, Mr. Burroughs is a member of the Broadway cast of Tina, a current member of the Broadway cast, Tina, yes. And he understudies the role of Ike Turner. I'm sure he is going to let you have it, y'all. Come on. He previously appeared in King Kong and Kinky Boots. Yes. Then you have the John Eric Parker. Okay. His Broadway credits include The Book of Mormon, Rent, Memphis, and All Shook Up. Little FYI, a little fun fact. John Eric, I made my Broadway debut with John Eric Parker. He's like a big brother to me and, gave me all the insides of the Broadway, what's going on. So it's amazing to have him here. He was also seen on the road in Rent and The Wiz. Then we have Ariel Reid, y'all. She is the current dance captain for Broadway's Aladdin and has previously appeared in Spamalot. And there she is, yes. And Elf. She was also part of the national touring productions of 42nd Street. A little FYI for this one. I have known her. We were literally like teenagers at camp, literally at Broadway camp together. Yes. Then last but certainly not least, it's Broadway's Dennis Stowe. And he is definitely, a staple. He is a part of the original company of Aladdin. He is currently the standby for both Jafar and the Sultan. His stage credits include Annie, Shrek, Dirty Rotten Scandals, and more. He toured with the company of Copacabana, and was part of the 2001 special concert of Dreamgirls featuring Audra McDonald, Lillias White, and Heather Headley. I can't even stand it. On my research, I thought this would be fun to just tell you this. I'm going to list all the shows that everyone has that we've all combined. So just listen to this real quick.
Oh dear.
The Book of Mormon, Memphis, All Shook Up, Rent, Aladdin, Elf, Spamalot, Frozen, Something Rotten, Honeymoon in Vegas, Holla If You Hear Me, The Wedding Singer, Good Vibrations, Hairspray, Tina, King Kong, Kinky Boots, Annie, Leap of Faith, Shrek the Musical, The Apple Tree, Dirty Rotten Scandals, Wonderful Town, and Man of La Mancha. I cannot even feel.
Well done, fam.
A combined total of 24 Broadway shows is represented here today. I am so excited to get to talk to y'all. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
It's so good to see y'all. Today we are, it's been amazing to get to chat on Broadway.com, and they've given me this platform to get to talk to amazing, fierce artists in our community. And today we are in this perspective of truly, you all have done it all. Like in the ensemble, dance captains, you've played leads, you've done it all. And so it's important that we hear your perspective because you truly are staples in Broadway community. So I'm so excited that we get to have this conversation. Let's get on into it. And this is really going to be a round table. So, let's go. So this is what I want to talk about first. I want to start off with a lovely light moment, let's start off, there. So I want to know, when was the moment that each of you were inspired, or you felt like you could have the jobs that you've had and today, that moment you thought this is possible in this this Broadway world and this entertainment world? How about we start with John Eric Parker?
Wow. Turning, you saw my wheels turning, right? And I had plans on it. I think growing up in New York City, I went to the High School of Performing Arts, LaGuardia. When it was on 46th Street. And I remember one day heading to lunch, and I was walking past the stage door of the Imperial Theater where Dreamgirls was playing the first go round. Yeah, you should live so long and look so good. Don't come for me. So
here we go.
I'm walking down the street and I see Jennifer Holliday going to hail a taxi. And I see her and I'm like, oh my God, it's Jennifer Holliday. but I also see her see me in a weird way and think, well, who is that? Oh my God, she saw me. Okay, so if I see her and she can see me, then it is possible to be seen.
Ooh.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's it.
With that, I was
Oh,
like,
I love
okay,
that.
all right, let's keep doing this. Let's keep going. Yeah.
Amazing. I love
It's
that,
amazing.
John Eric. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
obsessed with that.
Yeah.
Ariel,
Love
what
it.
about for you?
I think for me, growing up in New Jersey, I was always coming into the city.
You a Jersey girl.
Yes, I am. My parents would take me to see Broadway shows, and I think for me, seeing Saturday Night Fever, hear me out. Saturday Night Fever with Miss Karine.
Ooh.
Wow.
And the way that she was moving on that stage and the joy that was exuding from her, I was like, I have to have that. Like I have to be a part of that. I have to experience that. So I think for sure that's like a clinching moment for me of like, yeah, no, this is definitely what I'm gonna do.
Yes. I love it. Karine. Yes. Y'all, if you don't know who Karine is,
I mean,
Google. And you will see the legendary Karine.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Nick, Rashad, Burroughs, what about for you?
Well, for me, I'm a preacher's kid from Alabama so the first bit of performing that I saw was ladies living their dreams on church, like belting away, and that's what my dad was a singer and my mom, so I was always singing in church but I came from a sports family also, so it was like sing for the Lord and then go play football and run track. So I had no idea what theater was.
Yeah.
So I just knew that I loved watching people that look like me perform and give, and because those church ladies from the South, that's all they got. They give it all they got, and that was so inspiring for me. And so I'll never forget when I saw a tour production of Ain't Misbehaving that came to Alabama, and it was I didn't know what theater was. My mom my mom's friend had tickets. And she was like, I'm not using this. You want these? And she gave the tickets to me and my sister. So we went to see a tour. We didn't even know what theater was, but we saw these beautiful Black people out there just ain't misbehaving, living their dreams. It was the most inspiring thing ever. I was like, what is this called? I want to do that. What is that? And I remember going and YouTubing it from there on, I was in high school. I was in my freshman year, middle school. And I remember YouTubing everything about what Ain't Misbehaving was. And from that, I was just like, theater. I was like, this. I don't have to play sports. I want to do that. I want to do that. That was.
Yes. I love it. Ain't Misbehaving. Come on now. Beazer, what about for you?
Well, my story is kind of similar to Nick's story, where it's just my parents were from the islands, Antigua and Barbuda. And so they came over here. They didn't know anything about Broadway. I never grew up watching musicals. But I do remember I was 3 and I was dancing in front of the television. And my godmother told my mother, she was like, you need to put her in dance class. And so that's when she put me in dance class. And I just remember growing up in the studio, people always used to tell me, you're going to be on Broadway. And so I didn't know what Broadway really was. I just knew that that's where all the best dancers was. So I was like, that's where I want to go then. And so it's just amazing that when somebody speaks into your life at such a young age and you're like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do, that's where you end up, right? And so it just shows you the importance of speaking truth and light in other people's lives. And it happens. They believe you. So that's how I ended up here. And just a lot of faith and following a dream.
Yes. And Dennis Stowe, what about for you, boo?
Please say you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We're having technical issues, y'all, but we're back. Look at God. I'm going to give you a strange answer. I grew up on Long Island. I'm a New Yorker. I danced since I was a little kid. I arrived in Broadway kind of, I guess nowadays you would say kind of late. So I was in my early 30s by the time I did my first Broadway show. So I didn't really know that I can have Broadway as a career until I started, because I mean, I don't know about y'all, but every time I got a Broadway show, I always thought it was a fluke. You know what I mean? And there's something in our insecure actor mind that says, this is it. I was just lucky, and this is going to be it. So I did Man of La Mancha was my first Broadway show, and by the time I got to maybe the Wedding Singer, which was probably like number 4, I was like, okay, well maybe this is going to be what I'm going to be able to do, for my career. But we're also the way that this business works is that you just never know what it's going to be. So I mean, I always knew I wanted to do this. I always knew I wanted to work on Broadway, but I didn't know it could be a career until 4 or 5 Broadway shows in. So I don't know.
I don't think that's weird at all. I mean, that I get that. You mean Wedding Singer when you and Beazer were giving you full
Saturday night.
Yes. First of all, everyone on this panel, I just completely adore, and I have either worked with Nick. I don't think we've worked together yet, but I remember Tracee Beazer when I came into Wedding Singer. I'll tell the story because it's my favorite story ever. And so we had a dance cleanup. And Tracee, if you've ever seen her on stage, you cannot help but look at her just because of the way that she shines on the stage. Every show that I've seen her in, every show that I've been in with her. And we had a dance cleanup, and they said, it was the beginning of the second act. It's called Nothing But a Screen, right? And we all had to just walk in a line. And Tracee would walk in like she walks. And the dance captain said, Tracee, you have to walk like you're in an office. And she said, that is how I will walk. And I knew that I would love her forever after that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's amazing. Well, that's what we're dealing with today, people. That is what we're dealing with today. Thank y'all for sharing that. I just want to start with that just because it's wonderful to be able to hear everyone talk about that and not just all of a sudden we're given I'm now starring in John Eric Parker the musical that you started in some places where a lot of people can relate to how the 5 of you have been able to start. So I really thought that was important for us to be able to share that. So I am curious about you all, what your thoughts are on the narrative that Broadway has become more diverse because there are more ensemble members in the show who are of color. I think that's a very interesting narrative that has been shared. And so I'm curious from the congregation what it is that you think about that. I can, So who wants to jump in there with something with that?
Well, I'll start it if you don't mind, and I will say, Broadway has become more diverse. More is the operative word. More. I remember it being such a coup that there was one Black Rockette, that there was one young lady in Jerome Robbins' Broadway. Greta was her name. Greta, I forget what her last name is. That being such a coup. So I would agree with the statement, more diverse. Got a ways to go? Absolutely. But those times that I'm speaking of, that's 20 years ago. So to think that we've come to where we've come to in 20 years, we still got some work to do. So, and I think that's the bill of goods that, we get sold with in terms of the community, in terms of our audiences, is that more diverse is the plateau, is the standard, is the stopping point. And that is just not true. Yes, more has happened, not enough, and more to go.
Yes.
I agree with that as well. I think that, there are a lot more Black people and people of color in the ensembles of these Broadway shows. However, what's happening behind the table? How many choreographers, directors, producers, theater owners, the people who are really gaining wealth off of Broadway, how many of those people are Black or people of color? And if we're going to talk about Broadway as a whole, then we most certainly have to talk about that, because that's where it starts. And also that's where it ends in their bank accounts. So who's being included in that? That's something to think about as well.
And,
yes.
And piggybacking off of that, like, it's the diverse thing. I am happy about seeing more diversity celebrated and us acknowledging it and celebrating it every time. But it's still very evident that it's this token thing that's going on. Me and Tracee, and we're just doing we did two shows, like almost it felt back to back, where we were the two Black, where we were the only Black people in the reading. Like, I did a reading, the next week I did the other one. It just seemed like, it seemed like those are the Black people that we trust, and we're gonna put those. We're gonna only put them in this reading. And it's just like, when I walk into these and I'm like, okay, I know we haven't set the tone of what the show is gonna be yet. We don't know what it's gonna be yet, but I know the tone could be more than one Black person in here.
Yes.
Right. That's not so we can say that it's diversified and help you make you feel better, because it is. Sure, you're giving chances when chances weren't happening at all, but you're still limiting us. And Black people have been everything other than white have been great for over years. And it seems like when we celebrate, it's diverse. Look at how diverse it is. You're just celebrating the fact that you covered your bases.
Basically. I've been a sorry.
Go ahead.
I've been a token for a lot of my shows, and you can't help but to feel like you are. I think I've written this and I've talked about it. You feel like a chess piece. You feel like the strategic chess piece that they have to place a Black person here because they have a Black lead. And so we need, I guess we have to have a Black person in the ensemble who can cover this Black person, especially in a reading where you don't really feel like you're there to develop a character. You're just kind of there to check a box. It's just kind of feeling that over and over again. It gets a little, exhausting.
I love where we are now, and that we're really having to answer the question about what diversity really means.
Yeah.
And I think that we're trying to get the white people in power to ask themselves what it means. So just because you have a stage full of people, of brown people, of people of color, does that really mean you're being diverse? And let me tell you something. The fact that there was just one Black person in shows when I was coming up and seeing shows, I don't belittle that. I think that that's what's allowed us as people of color to go to Broadway and to be able to dream, to be in it, to see the Adrian Baileys, you know what I mean, and the Robert Fowlers, and these are the people whose shoulders that I stand on, who I was able to come and see and look at and say, oh my God, I can do this. I can be in there. Yeah. And it's because of them. Now, is it a problem that there's only one or two? I try to stay away from the word token. I always use the term chocolate chip. There's a couple of chocolate.
I use chocolate treat as well.
Right.
Chocolate treat.
Chocolate chip in the show. We've all been the chocolate chip in the show. And there's a pride that you have by being that person too, right? Because you know that some little person of color is looking at you. I remember when I was in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, there were two of us, and we were a couple, right? Mm-hmm. So we were dancing couple, and I remember going out to the stage door, and a little Black boy, stopping me, as I was coming out and saying, "Hey, I watched you the whole show. I was looking at you the whole show," and that made me realize that it was like, wow, it's important for us to see each other, to see ourselves, on stage, and how important that is. And so, I hope that we're that people are asking themselves a question: what diversity and inclusion, which they like to use you know, with diversity. Inclusion is the action, right?
Yeah.
So who is included? Is it just the people on stage, or is it the people behind the table, like Ariel was saying, and the producers and things like that? We've got a way to go. But I'm glad that the questions are being asked.
Yes,
absolutely. This is why I've been so thankful to be able to have this kind of platform, because it is opening something for in our world, our Broadway world, and this sort of the community that a lot of people don't really, we've been talking about it for a minute, obviously. And so it's very different when we talk about it, at, Yum Yum Bangkok in between shows and not, and yes, I went there. Yum Yum too, right? Like it's very different for us to be talking about it there and now getting to talk about it on a platform where truly, in this moment, if we are not speaking about what is happening, then that's also on us, in terms of where we're going. So, this idea of chocolate chip tokenism, chocolate treat, if you will, and as you said, every one of you, one of us on this panel have been the chocolate treats of a show. And obviously what it looked like 10, 15 years ago to now, is it's interesting. I mean, it's different. It's still, like John Eric said, there's more to go, obviously. But here's where I want to kind of go with this. There seems to be this expectation of a certain way Black Black people have to be in a show, especially through the eyes of, people who are not of color creating the show. Definitely. And it's one thing when a certain show causes for a specific, whether it's historical or so forth. But how have you navigated fitting into and not into that narrative while trying to build a career outside, of their own ideas of the industry's preconceived notion of Blackness?
Good question. That's a great question.
Go.
I will say that as a member of the ensemble, when we're talking about something like this, you have to talk about power and where you stand within the structure of the company as a whole. And so, if you're coming in as an ensemble member who is more than likely nameless and hasn't been given the writers haven't given any thought to who you are and how you fit into it, except they know that they want you to be there for whatever reason they have. It's hard to manipulate and work through that structure. I think that it depends on the show, and it depends on the team that you're working with and how you can make that work for yourself. I think also with the token issue, I think part of it is perspective. Like when you look at who is producing and directing, right? They can only see it through their lens.
Yeah.
And I think people are butting heads because they're feeling defensive because they're like, I live in New York City, or I live in the surrounding area for a reason. I like it because there are all different colors, there are all different cultures, and I like being a part of it. But then you have to look into their personal lives. Do you really, who's invited to your home? Who is invited to your children's birthday parties?
Mm-hmm.
Go to school? What is your life within it? Are people of color really in your life, or are they window dressing? And you can tell the difference reflected in the art, because when you watch the show, you feel a disconnect when you see it. You're like, I see all these people. Yeah, I see color. Yeah, but it just feels like they're on the periphery somehow. And that's how they're being perceived in these people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
and who is contributing, who's investing money for these shows. What are their lives look like? Who do they hang out with? Who are their friends?
Right.
And that all gets reflected on what ultimately ends up on stage and how it shows up on stage.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's really weird knowing that a majority of people only see you as a certain thing, a certain type, and people of color rarely get to play fully realized characters. And it's just like, and the reason that that is so frustrating is because when we were in college learning musical theater, we were doing the same, we had the same homework that our white students had. We had to come in there. If you didn't know your Shakespeare monologue, you didn't know your Shakespeare monologue. It didn't matter. So it's just like when we get out there in the world, and I mean, you can tell me I've done all this. Everybody's different, but my school, I barely did. I wanted a black role so bad in my college. I remember saying that out loud but the shows that we did were like not that. We didn't do many black shows, so I had to be full. I was like, I get to be a realized character. I don't have to be a caricature. And then you get to the big time, you get to Broadway, and you realize it's impossible for black people to be what we're training in. And then they get a narrative to us that, oh, they can only do the black shows. They can only do this. No, we can actually do everything. Went to the school with the people that y'all are giving those roles to, but you only see us as something else, and you're scared to give us a chance. Time they give us a chance, we gag them. Look at the black shows that do all the, like Hamilton. Obviously, like when you give other people a chance, who have said they have the training, people can show you. And so I think that's what gets frustrating for people of color, artists of color, because we're like, we trained, but we don't rarely get to do it.
Yeah. What do you think about that, John Eric?
Well, you know, I feel like it's a multi-layered dismantling that has to happen. Just a quick story. I remember like being in college training and being able to do like, you know, as a matter of fact, Dennis saw me in school in my junior year do Oedipus. Like, I mean, I did everything, right? Like that's how we met.
That's where we first met.
Right. That's where we first met. And, you know, I've always been a person to like turn a word, turn a phrase. And a girl I went to school with, she was the same way. And we talked about how we both got our sense of humor from our sisters. And I said to her, oh my God, I cannot wait for you to meet my sister. And I can't wait to meet yours. And she said, well, I don't know if you'll meet my sister. And I said, well, why? She says, well, because she says some bad things that you shouldn't say. And I don't know why it registered with me so quickly that it was like, I thought, well, why don't we take that a step further? How about those are the things you shouldn't think, much less you shouldn't say. And so where that trickles down for me to is, yes, there needs to be inclusion. Yes, there needs to be a share of equity. But I live for the day when I work for the day when people aren't doing the things that they're told to do because they have to. They actually care about the stories that we're telling. They actually care about the stories that Black artists and artists of color can tell and how they can contribute to the narrative. They care about the complexities of the work that we do and how that fits in with the things that we've been trained to do. Because the moment that we say we don't want that training because we're not doing it on Broadway stages, they're then going to offer it to us and say, you see, you don't have the training. So we have to continue to train, but we also have to, and I'm going to shut up in a minute, but we also have to realize we've all spoken about the calling, about how this is not about being on stage and being fierce, right? That there is a piece of what we do that is paving the way for somebody behind us. And somehow or another, in this tricky business, it has worked out for the six of us.
Yeah.
So it behooves us to make sure that we make a space for somebody coming behind us. And maybe they get to carry the baton further than we did, but that's not the point. The point is that they get to carry the baton and run in our wake.
Yes.
So we have
yeah.
all those.
I love it.
I think. But I'm gonna shut up for now and drink my tea.
Honey. Deacon.
Well, I will also say that it is what's great about that, and what you're just saying about that, you know, that also happens within a show. And like I said earlier, you know, I had the experience of getting to do my first Broadway show a lot of years ago at this point.
Please. Oh, please.
I can't believe it. So it seems like it was literally like 2 years ago. Honey. It just feels like, in terms of when we did All Shook Up. But I had, you know, and this is something I do want to also chat about. I had people of color in the show who I could look up to. And so the idea of this passing the torch, and this idea of what it was, that I could see that for myself, you know, and what I could learn and what I needed to learn, and how I, you know, carried myself, and all the things with fierce, amazing people of color in my same company was so valuable. And it's so important. It taught me what I needed to do in terms of like how I wanted to sort of to go forward into the Broadway community, into that world, where I needed to go, how, like all of it, the reputation of it all, and how important that was to be able to have those people in my same company, you know, to go from there. This kind of leads me to something I want to ask you all, and part of it is like, you know, there can be a real disconnect at times with ensemble members not feeling empowered to speak up about a number of issues, especially race issues. Part of the issue may be the fact that a lot of times, as Ariel has said, there isn't anyone of color on the management team, right? And so not to say that those who are in management positions who aren't of color wouldn't be able to help or open to helping. Right. In fact, I feel like a lot of those people would, if they have the tools and they, you know, to be able to actually feel, to be able to help, you know, in these situations. But I also think there's a disconnect, because it can be uncomfortable, right, for both parties. And so to really tackle those issues, have any of you experienced this, and what can we do to make this better? Dennis?
Yeah, you know, I think that this whole notion of sort of the intersectionality within not just racial, but like dancer, singer, ensemble, you know, principal, and feeling like, you know, maybe the principals have a little bit of a louder voice, like we don't have a voice because we're in the ensemble. You know, I never really, I personally have always been somebody who is, and I think that, you know, just as people, you have to teach people how to treat you all the time. And so, you know, I've always been of the mind that I always want to teach people how to treat me, and also be fair at the same time. So I was never really intimidated or scared to speak up, but I would understand why people would be, because we're sometimes we're you know, made to think that we're sort of like a dime a dozen, especially when you're in the ensemble or when you're a dancer, and then you're just going to be, you know, labeled a squeaky wheel, right? If you want to, you know, and I'm hoping that now that conversation is changing, and that people will feel a little bit more empowered now, especially when it comes to racial issues now, to speak up and be like, hey, that's not, you know, the way that you are saying that or is not right, and not feeling alone. I love all of these alliances that are being formed now, Black Theater United and Broadway Advocacy Coalition and things like that, so that people don't feel so alone. Because that's you know, that's a lot of the stories that I've been hearing, is that when you are the only, you know, person of color in the show and something happens, you're looking around to see like, who can I go to? You know what I mean? What can I do? And I'm hoping that those I'm hoping that that's changing. That will be changing with these conversations that we're having now. But yeah, it's natural to think that if I'm not the star of the show, then they're not going to really listen to me anyway. So I can't really say anything.
Yeah.
Right.
I not really subscribe to that, but I feel like people, and then you have people who get behind you. You know what I mean? And I actually happily take that responsibility in shows, and I have to be able to I'm not really intimidated by, because you know what, we're all out here. You know what I mean? Directors, stage managers, we're all just out here, and we're all people. And so to put people on this sort of pedestal when we're all out here just trying to make art and just trying to move through the world is like, I'm not intimidated by those conversations, and never have been.
Beazer, what do you think about that?
Yeah, everything Dennis was saying. I've been having conversations with other people about like what we can do, what our next steps could possibly be. And I mean, we think it would be a great idea just to have allies of color and equity that can be a sounding board whenever microaggressions do happen in the workplace that we don't feel some people might not feel comfortable going to the powers that be to address, or having them come in and meet with them. But I just read, I'm kind of like you as well, Dennis, where it's like sometimes we're like, we will nip that in the bud at certain times. I didn't when I was younger, but growing up, we've been in this for a while, and you know that this is also your space, and you take the space even if you don't feel like they're giving it to you. But that's something that you kind of have to learn. But I don't know if anybody read Tanya Pinkin's article. If you haven't, read it. But it's about making it your responsibility to speak up for yourself in the room, and sometimes that might mean not having a gig and being fired, but it's just sometimes you have to make that decision for yourself to speak up and what you're going to put up with, because it's just going to keep happening over and over again. And it's the hard thing to do, to make that decision, especially as a young actor, when you don't know if you have anybody behind you or anybody who's got your back. But it's a tough one, but you do have to make that decision for yourself in that moment, if this is worth you mentioning it to them. And they may not take it well, but what's the cost to you? And, we all have had to do it, but I'm sorry, but that's why I say that sometimes somebody might need an advocate to back them up. And if we have somebody in place, like an HR through equity that deals specifically with that, then I think that could be a great way to show support for people.
So like Ariel, like while we're dealing with this, because you're, as I mentioned, you're the current dance captain for Aladdin, for Broadway's Aladdin, and so you're in a management position, and so and I know that I mean we've had private conversations even just about a bunch of the stuff, but there's also probably a sense that empowerment to feel, to be able to speak up is also a lot when you're the only person of color on that team. So I see you shaking your head. You were saying yes, amen to the congregation. So will you tell the church about that, and what are your thoughts on that?
That's the problem with tokenism, right? Is that you're isolated.
Yeah.
So you can easily be discredited or be discounted or ignored or pushed aside because there's only one of you, right? So for me, I have spent most of my career being the only or one of very few. And then coming onto Aladdin was like a dream come true, because here we are with just the most beautiful people of color and Black people around, and it felt incredible when I was,
there she is.
I love it.
And what's special about what I always thought was special about Aladdin, for the ensemble and for the female ensemble in particular, is that for that original company, almost everyone was Black. It was all Black women on that stage, and I have never experienced that before. And that dressing room experience is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. What's ironic about it is that now, as dance captain, I do have a voice, and I am part of the casting process, and I do have a seat at that table. And now I'm a token again. So, that
literally the whole house fell over Jerusalem, and everyone said,
Yeah.
Not to say that we aren't on the same wavelength with a lot of things, but there are certain things that I feel like, or moments where I've had to definitely use my voice to bring light to certain things that I don't think anyone even realized. I think that that's part of it as well, is that I think that a lot of times people think it's intentional, it's this, it's that, and I don't think that it is. I think it's, again, like, it's really not in some people's minds, and they don't even realize that until someone is there to tell them, hey, please.
Yeah.
That's important. And if I could just jump in real quick, is about that, is that, you know, I had an incident recently where I had to speak with a manager about something, and we had a great conversation about it. And the thing that I had to make clear, and what I was so grateful that he understood, was when I walk into the building, we are now in a position where the Black man doesn't, you know, shed his chameleon skin at the sign-in board. And so the way that you speak to me and the way that you deal with me has to be viewed through a different lens. And you have to then take on that lens. And, you know, he got it. And I was so grateful that we were able to get to that position, because it needed to be heard, but also I had the courage to say it, to speak my truth. And we are in a moment when people are actually listening. And, you know, if you've ever been in a place where you're just used to people not listening to you, when they're finally listening to you, you find yourself dumbstruck. And this is what we have to, as a community, go, all right, they're listening. Let me really speak, because it can move the needle forward.
Right. Nick, you because you're in Tina. You're currently in Tina before when Broadway shut down, and so you're a part of a company that's full of a lot of color. And like that cast is you know there. So what's for you? You know, because you were saying, like prior, like some of the readings or workshops that you've done, like you and Tracee were the two or whatever it is. And so, you know, there's also a different experience when we are part of a company with a lot more color. And that's also a whole other can of worms that we can, you know, that's another episode, you know, but for you, you know, like, what's that been like? Because I think of the shows that you've done, it seems like the Broadway shows you've done, it seems like that might be the one with the most color, correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, because I think that ties into both things that we were talking about. What I feel about that is, like, first of all, I think that's something that could help all of that. It's just hiring more people of color for management positions. I think if we just they're out there, and if we get those people a voice, so that we're not always having to be a token. One Black person or one person of color is not always having to be the voice for every person that's the same color as them. Like, and then just make a diverse leadership so that everyone feels comfortable going to their problems. Because all Black people don't feel like that might be harsh, but all Black people don't feel like, oh, if I go to this and make this complaint about such and such, they might make me out to be the Black person that's angry or something. So, like, we don't always feel comfortable to say our truth. So one thing that would fix that is if you got a diverse group, so we level the playing field, and everyone is just comfortable to be in their workspace and do what they need to do as an actor, as a person that has to do their job. And another thing, but like going from like a show where I was like, and I loved both casts, had a blast, love them all. But it was just so jarring to me. And I remember being like, when I finally got the feeling of doing a show where there was people that looked like me. I could talk about something in the dressing room and everybody understood what I was talking about. I was just like, oh, so what white people get all the time? It was I couldn't believe it. It was like, I was happy because I love my Tina Turner cast so much. Like, I love that. Like, that is my family. I'm talking about, we are out here hanging out every day. Like, and it's just like, and I love all of my cast, but it's just like the differentiation of that and how comfortable I felt bothered me. I would say, I remember being bothered. I was like, oh, I have never felt, because we have a Black associate director and Black dance captain. And I'm like, I can walk up to them and be like, oh, hey girl, how you doing? All right, what's this step? And it's a different vibe when you want, because you want to do good when you're the token, because if you do one bad thing, then it's like they all trickle and be like, oh, you got to go. And then like, no, please, white people, don't escape away from me from speaking my truth. Like, that happens to a lot of people. They all talk about it, but they just don't want to tell the white people.
I was going to say, what about? Oh, I'm sorry, Nick.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What about this notion of a table full of white people deciding about your Blackness? I cannot tell you in my career how many times I have been told you are too light to be in this Black show.
Yep.
And that is so crazy to me. You know what I mean? That, first of all, before I even got to Broadway, most of the shows that I did were all Black shows. You know, all of the Five Guys Named Mo's and the Ain't Misbehavins and the, Once on This Island, and that's all I did. And so to have somebody question my Blackness and saying you are not, and so many times, and not even be let in the room because they're like, no, you can't. Not because you're a baritone and we need a tenor. Not because you can't dance. It's because your skin is not dark enough for what we think Black people should look like. When we all look like different things, you know what I mean? And we're not all the same thing. And so that's something that is really so strange. And I hope that we are now really having conversations about that. It's like, well, why should you get to decide if I'm telling y'all, one time I had somebody say to me, I was up for, it was like a workshop or something. It was a tap dancing duo, I remember. And I saw the dance captain who I knew, and she said, "Oh my God, Dennis, we really wanted to, cash you, but." And I was like, "Well, what does this mean?"
What is that?
She said, "Well, we were trying to figure out, should we put darker makeup on him?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what are you talking about? It's crazy. What we have to deal with, not only, and it's so concentrated in show business, right? Because we're always in these boxes. So I'm glad that we are really, really having these conversations.
So then I will ask all of you as we sort of get to the end today. I mean, literally it goes so fast and we're just starting. But I will ask all of you, that's a great sort of place to sort of, end also on an up note. But one of these things is about action. A lot of it has been about like, okay, we are having these conversations and all those things. So I am curious from each of you, what do we need to do? What do we need to keep doing better? Where do we need to go? That is my question then, in terms of, in this moment now where we are, where it looks like Broadway will probably not be back for, having been down for a year, which is truly like an incredible historic reset for our industry, and a setback where we've all literally been on pause. So when we come back in, post-pandemic and this new awakening that is happening, it really will be historic. And so what is it that we need to be doing? What is it that we can continue to keep doing? So I'd love to end with each one of you giving that to me.
I just feel like we need to just keep having grace I think, because these conversations are being had and they're being had in difficult moments and people are learning, but we just need to be able to have grace in these conversations, because I do feel like people are getting it. The white people in our industry, I think they're finally, like, something has clicked in their brains, and I'm grateful for it. But I think the conversation, clearly there's a lot more to be said, but I think in those conversations there needs to be grace for growth and grace for not getting it correct. And I just think that more Black people need to be on the creative teams. I had a conversation with an associate director of Disney, and he came and he was so open to suggestions, and which is wonderful. And I was like, you need to hire somebody to take your place someday. So it's just, that's what needs to happen. And he was like, I don't want to lose my job, which is fair, but I see you train up these associate directors, and they're usually people that look like you. So why don't you make it a conscious decision to get somebody who doesn't look like you, a person of color, and train them up? And so I think that's also where we need to start. They need to.
I love that, grace for growth.
Yeah,
I love
grace
that.
for growth.
That's beautiful. That's
Thanks,
beautiful.
Man. Thanks.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Something I would say would just be us supporting each other at this time is so important. It like couldn't be more important now that people are actually listening. So Black people really have to come together, and people of color, everyone has to
yes. Yeah.
And support each other. And every artist in this field needs to be able to feel comfortable being able to say, as an artist, the thing that's offensive to me, can we talk about it, instead of being afraid of being like, oh my God, that was extremely racist. Oh yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Go home and talk to your friend about it, how it hurt you, how it depressed you, and then go to work the next day and smile in front of them. I think I want that. I think that's how us, our voice, and be like, hey, I'm not mad. We don't have to fight. This is still professional. That was offensive. How can we fix it? So I think if people are stop being scared of that, that will move us forward. And people just sticking together and stop being shady and let everyone do art.
Yeah.
Dennis?
You know, I think during this journey, I think the big thing for me is accountability. And it's not just accountability for white people, it's also our accountability on how we have contributed to this idea of white supremacy and systemic racism being in the fabrics of our systems. And how have we, as artists, contributed to that and to sort of reconcile those things as well. Just like we're asking white people to do, we need to do that for ourselves. And like Nick said, we also have to realize that you know, we're always grouped together, like we all always think the same thing. And I think it's important that we all have our own unique individual showbiz experiences, Black experiences, being Black in show business experiences, and all of that can exist together. And I agree with Nick. I said we have to support each other in this journey as well. And also, you know, it's what we keep saying. It's like we need more seats at the table. We need to have seats at the table with power, but we also need to be able to wield that power. So it's not just about putting somebody at the table with, you know, that has power. You have to be able to wield it and feel safe about that, you know? And so, you know, hopefully, you know, we can get to that.
Yeah.
Ariel? I agree as well. With the whole idea of supporting each other. I think that continuing to, of course, work hard, but work smart, and make sure, you know, and I've found this across the board, but for Black performers, are always like know their stuff inside and out, and are on top of their game. And if they're not, then I'm always there to make sure they are, because it's very important. Also, to just part of empowering yourself is following through with the ideas that you have. I cannot tell you how many incredible ideas for shows that I've heard in the dressing room, putting on makeup, and it's like, okay, well, where is that? That would be incredible. I think that would, you know, burst open the scene with that show. But where is that now? You know what I mean? So continuing to support each other in that way as well, and getting together and writing things and creating things, pulling our money together if we need to in order to get these things produced and to drive our own work forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And John Eric.
Yes, Michael James.
I was just curious what you thought on this.
Well, I think a couple of things. I'll list a couple of things, right? The first thing I think is most important is courage, is to have the courage to have the conversation, to have the courage to be a part of it and speak your truth, right?
Yeah.
To participate. Don't let, I am a Black man raised by a Black man raised by a Black man. I got pain bodies generations long, but I have to push that aside as much as I can to stay in the conversation and not check out. So you have to participate, right? We have to be transparent with each other when we support each other. We have to be very transparent with each other to uplift each other. And the biggest thing that I think is we have to remember that this idea, as Dennis said, of us like being lumped together, we didn't create that. We didn't create that. We didn't say me, Tracee, and Nick, we are the only two Black people that should be hired in every project that we should trust. We didn't create that. So as we move forward as a group, let's not, just using you as an example, let's not, pretend like Tracee or Nick started it. So we're not gonna, drive the freedom train, but we're gonna run over Tracee and Nick. I have zero patience for that.
Yeah.
Zero patience for it. Do it how you do it. It's your responsibility to do it. It's your calling to do it. But the moment that you decide that I get the casualty, we have a problem. And we have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because it only slows down the process.
Amen. Yeah. Amen.
All right.
All right. Yes.
I open.
Well, I am so grateful for every one of you and your openness to talk about this and to be able to just talk about this perspective that, again, a lot of our viewers and audiences on Broadway.com may never have gotten to hear. And it's a wonderful way for us to be able to grow. And we are an industry that, there is an old school feel in our industry. But what is very, very apparent now is that there is a new school of growth. And I'm excited about what that means for us all as we move forward, with in our world. But just so you all are the congregation, all the audience members out there, I just wanted to hear from these staples in our Broadway community, because I'm sure you've seen all of them in shows, and some of them that you're probably like, oh my gosh, they were in that. Oh my gosh, like, of course they were in that. Or you remember them from certain moments, step out moments that they've all created that are just, legendary. So I am thankful for your openness and, the continuation, as John Eric says, about the ones behind you who are coming and they are looking at you right now and looking at you in your careers as we've been going and thinking, oh my gosh, like I could be like, they are given what you were saying at the beginning, of this conversation about that idea of like, it is possible. And them looking at you, they are actually saying, I could be a Tracee, I could be a John Eric, I could be a Nick, I could be a Dennis, I could be an Ariel. So thank you all for coming in and speaking your heart and all of the things. And as I said to my panels before, I cannot wait to see you on 9th Avenue. We go to Reba and upstairs.
Ariel.
Right. We can jete in and out and go to Reba and have our mama, margarita. So I'm just Two of them. I'm just saying. So thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I'm speechless because I just love them and I love what they represent. And I love that we can have this conversation and have the time to be able to really get into it. So I'm thankful for that. Woo! Come on in, Miss Caitlin. Where you at? There you are.
I have two things. A, this was incredible. Again, I learned so much. I'm so thankful for you and for all of our incredible panelists for their voices and for being vulnerable with us, and very thankful for that. And two, now I want a Reba. Why did you bring it up?
I know, right?
Now I want to go and I want to get my marg that is less than $10 because it's very hard to find.
I
my
know.
Tacos.
And just like bottomless chips and salsa. Like, yes, I know.
Them.
I know. Well, it'll happen. It'll happen. Oh my God. Thank you for having me. Of course, you know I love y'all. And I will see you soon. Mwah. Goodbye.
Bye, Michael. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another excellent roundtable discussion hosted by Michael James Scott right here on Live at 5 Home Edition. You guys can follow us along with us where we get your podcasts by searching for hashtag Live at 5 and hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you guys have a safe rest of your night. If you go outside, wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from each other, and we'll see you next time.